Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're going to be taking a look at some episode 5 excerpts from Street Dance Girl Fighter season 1. Now please note that a lot of my feedback is going to be tailored towards the context of the full episode reaction that I had done for Patreon. So if there's something that I say throughout the reaction that may feel a little bit strange or out of pocket compared to what you just watched, a lot of times it may be in reference to something else that was happening in the episode that I had made a previous point on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a watch.
Rude boy. Let's go.
Yo! She actually hit that musicality and how she chose to get up from that locking position. Very impressive. And it was only 2 8 counts of choreo too compared to some other groups. It really felt like a little more than what they had. That's fun. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That was dope. Yo, let's talk about it. So I'm gonna be very, very real with you. Let me put it this way, because I just watched and I'm trying to stay, I'm pretty objective about it, because rules are rules. If they weren't allowed to do it, then they wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? I think Squid, they chose CLUEC. CLUEC pulled what they pulled. Squid's gotta earn their keep. Do you know what I mean? And also, you would assume that the masters here, they are very understanding of the chaoticness of the choreography they were given. So naturally, that would be a kind of an influence to how they would go about in adjudicating Squid in this, right? So I think CLUEC operated at a disadvantage because they gave Squid such an impractical choreography that if Squid could match up the musicality enough, which I think they did in some of those little factions there, I really think that Squid would be operating more at an advantage. You know, with the special judge, that's whatever. But like CLUEC, if they literally, like, they would have had a very clean win, honestly, if they gave something more practical to Squid. But just keeping what they had, the exact same, giving Squid something that was decent, honestly, something pretty simplistic would have done just as much damage. You know what I mean? Because that's what we saw from H. H went down because they got an overly simplistic choreography. You have Bling G, simplistic choreography. You have Break Ambition. Their stuff was simplistic because it was the first time they were choreographing to a K-pop track. You know? So I really think that they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit, because they tried to go for a loophole. They found a loophole in the challenge, and they tried it. And I think it's honestly fun for me to see this as like a bona fide challenge, you know? But I will say this, I do not appreciate the attitude that they had in trying to hold and keep Squid in check while maintaining the choreography when they themselves were not competent in executing it themselves. That's where I have a problem, is don't try to authority check somebody whenever you yourself hadn't proved you have any right within that. Do you know what I mean? So that would have been a side conversation I would have had with them if I was their mentor. And here's the thing, we don't know what goes on behind what has happened. You know, who cares? It doesn't matter if they have good intentions or not. We're not going to see the true intention of what these girls bring to the table. They all want to make it a finals. So regardless if they say, oh, they didn't have bad intentions, you don't freaking know that, because it's regardless. And I'm not just isolating it to CLUEC. I'm talking about everybody who made trade part choreo for everybody else. They're going to come at it from the lens of, we want to win, so we're going to set them up for failure. Most of the crews, with the exception of 2 or 3, for about half of this lineup, have that mentality going in. So we're not going to have this pity party all of a sudden where it's like, oh, woe is me, Squid, you picked CLUEC. You know what I mean? But also, CLUEC was still within the rules. Did you outplay them in all other facets outside of that trade part choreo? Because that's what we look for too. That's my whole point with that. I do think they could have gone, I just think the behavior of CLUEC after the initiation of the choreography could have been better. But the choreography itself, whatever, honestly. So coming from the top, the choreo doesn't match the track at all. It doesn't. Also, it was the same thing, who was it? Brand New Child gave Bling Girls an overly hip-hop groove section. But what did Bling Girls have to do? They had to convert the pocket. And they did that on purpose. But they were also told they had to do that by their mentor. So, seeing this from the top here, really great peel out. I enjoyed it. Great energy, melding it in. I will say this though, with Squid, they already though, we're not on the same page when it comes to our angles that we've demonstrated here, you know? So bringing it up, bringing it through, waving it up, dipping it down. They build it up very well, but they're not all in the same energy level when they're filling out the groove or the body roll that they're choosing to display. Yeah, now it starts the trade part. They zoomed it out, I couldn't really see it. Da da da, ba da da, 3, 4, 5, look at this. Look at that. 2 8 counts, 2 8 counts of mayhem. Kind of look like they got to do their own thing. Have their own moment. Okay, we get to move on. Let's see what else Squid has to do. You know? Now, if that took up half of the routine, we'd be having a very different conversation. Now, bring it back here. Noticing they go do-do-do-do-do, bringing it out. Really nice to see that kind of the clock. Remember, I don't know any of the choreography that is in reference to Icon's music in this track, nor with any of the others, so I don't know if there's any key point choreo being influenced here. I'm assuming the answer is yes, because both of them did a lot of imagery of clocks. So seeing them groove back, notice though that a lot of their energy, how they reset, they all reset at different microseconds, so it's not as clean as you would want it to be. Even with that da-da, how they reverbed within that, a lot of them weren't as in much control of the finishing of their ISO the way that they needed to be if they wanted that to build but still be in sync. Love the whack there, and they go ba-da-da, that was nice. They go they drop, and then you have that, hold on, or whatever, chakaman, something. That little June, I really like that reversal kind of shift there. That was fun. Like a gun. I know both of them chose to do guns, but it was really fun to see that here. Also know, like, with their energy, I mean, they're all separated with their feet. It's great, but also because this is something that you notice with 17 that they have to really factor in. They have a huge height difference between their shortest member and their tallest member. Here, you do have some taller members here and some shorter members. 17 is able to deal with symmetry a little bit better because they have more members. They have 13, but here they only have 5. So you have to really be mindful of where you put people because symmetry of height does play a role in grooves like this, because if somebody has to separate their feet even more, that's going to affect the overall spacing of your routine, because it's either their torso is going to be further out versus their legs are going to be wider apart versus somebody else who's at the same level as them. So that's kind of something, that's why it's important to really factor in height on top of, inseam. Those are little details that sometimes go a long way whenever you're you're looking at visuals. The Rockettes, there's a reason why there's a height requirement and there's a height range, because there's certain visuals that they have a standard or a tradition that it's not going to read right if there's somebody significantly taller or shorter. It's just, that's the name of the game sometimes. It has nothing to do with your competency of the skill. It has everything to do with something that you can't control, which is your height. Continuing on from here, I mean, I really like the energy. They pull it up. That was great. Doom, doo 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 doom, doo 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 doom. Which was nice. I enjoyed that. Yes, sir, it was nice. They pull it up. Love the energy there. I love the pull through. Really great there. The energy's really nice. They're holding it down well. Yeah, that was great with the head ISO, but it just goes back to they have a lot of micro groove issues with how they're transitioning in their grooves. They're not in sync with each other. There's a lot of extra movement. Some of them are not fully pressing over it into the head and bringing it back. That yes sir was nice. Yes sir, dropping it down, looking over, boom, boom, with the head. So that was really nice. So now they're watching over to see what CLUEC does. Low-key, this is one of CLUEC's best performances. The energy was really, really nice. They're in sync with each other. The energy here, boom, da-da-da-da-da. As they twirled it up, there was a transition, great transition that took place. That right there, da-da-da, with a twirl in, that was fun. And the uppercut, which is really nice, have a militant perspective, but notice one of them kind of shocked the head up a little bit before everybody else. But because they're taking a more staccato, stiffer torso presence here, it does come across more militant, which does work with the track, especially with what they're wearing and with some of the aesthetics they're doing. A lot of their focal points are going to be in their upper body, so it makes sense how some of their lower body, they're kind of sacrificing this grungy groove pocket that we saw SQUID try to do. They're trying to go off of techniques and aesthetics and performance to overcompensate for what they're not bringing the way that SQUID is. So here, I really love this right here, boom, and then they bring it into a double, to a single, to a double. Love how that peel out, that was crispy clean. You can't deny that. That was clean. Bringing it down, having that moment at the top, then they all dip down, showcasing levels, having your little moment. I think they're the same number of members in the group, you know? And their energy, they're all matching the same level of energy. Boom, da-da-da, boom, da-da-da, boom. All of them are hitting the same range of the execution. The overheads are in check. They're not pushing that head forward. They're keeping it up. And they're also adding a stomp to add extra presence to that base, which is really nice in the build. Bringing it through. Great personality. Boom, which I really like. That was super fun. That march through. That da-da-da-da, boom, that pull through with the tension. I very much like that. They brought her out of the way. That boom right here. That right there, choom, having everybody go. And then they all had that recoil. They recoiled the same way with that shoulder and allow the head to push back with that. That was really nice. Bringing it around. Love this choice. That was so creative. Having somebody down on the ground and causing them to move. That's impressive enough whenever you're able to have somebody as an anchor point pull that. But they're doing that enough to where they're allowing the top person to rotate with them. Great balance from them. This was a freaking sick section. I love this section so much. It is impressive. Yeah, and honestly, she had to keep this in check because the one who's standing on her partner, she can't control as she rotates, so she has to modify her, and honestly, over-isolate her shoulder to make sure it stays in range as everybody else's. So that's very impressive from her. That feature moment, love that. I mean, you're a teenager. I really don't like, I call it prostitute behavior, where you're an underage dancer who's pulling some sensual stuff, you know. That's how I feel. Don't be a prostitute. Don't be pulling that kind of mess. You're a teenager. It's okay. If you're an adult, do what you want. But you're like 17, you know. I understand them doing that, though. It actually does tie in that part that they were given. That da-da-da-da-da-da. That was fun. Definitely enjoy it. That cha-da-da-choom with the two claps. Really nice to set them back up. Really nice on those pas de bourrées with the variations of the overheads. Really nice with those throws. I love it. Pulling it through. Choom. Great. That pull. Boom. Boom. Really fun. Now, there's the thing. They're going to be micro looking at them, though, to make sure they do every freaking thing right. Because if they mess up at all, they're going to come for them. Because they pulled what they pulled on SQUID. And that's the risk you run whenever you try to make a risk like that or you pull a loophole like that. You got to own what you're given. You know what I mean? If they're not going to dish it out as equally, You got to get what you're given. They're watching them. 2, 3, 4. Their range is pretty off on this. Notice that they're not really bringing in that super slinky groove. That is what we saw when Squid showed them the choreography from the get-go. That kind of stuff, they're not really bringing it in. It kind of looks a bit, not marked, but it doesn't look full. And so that can really play a role in the overall look of this section. It is kind of dropping in energy a little bit here, because it feels like they're not giving 150% of their energy through the motions of the extremities. You know, it feels like we're not fully connecting where we need to connect. Things of the like. So going into this though, they finish it down with the roll, melting it in. Right there. Which was nice. This was a great finish. So all in all, with the Squid versus CLUEC predicament. If we're keeping it objective, CLUEC would win this, I think. The only way, being honest, that CLUEC would not win this round is if they all vote for Squid, because they took the choreography they were given and they did the best they could with it. But so did everybody else. But they didn't give them pity points for the fact that they were given overly simplistic choreography. If anything, they were like, oh, they were smart, they were strategic. So it's interesting that so far I haven't heard these other mentors like, oh, that was strategic that they did that. You know, all of a sudden whenever, cause they converted it over to the music, Squid did. My only qualm with this whole thing is not the choreography, shockingly. It's their behaviors, CLUEC's behavior, and how they went about keeping Squid in check when they weren't upholding it on their end either. So that's my thing. If you're going to play that game, then you play it 100% of the way. And so being very realistic, Squid may feel, I mean, if Squid gets eliminated, they're going to feel completely unfair as to why they lost, but so will everybody else who got slighted by their trade part choreography. Everybody will feel that way, with the exception of the ones where there was a natural integrity involved with both parties, that they exchanged authentically to represent what's going to be, you know, challenging for them, but not impractical. There were a couple. This wasn't the only one. This one was just the most flamboyant example, but it was not the only example of effing over another group. We've seen that, right? But it's just the only one that they've made a big deal, if you think about it, you know, like a big enough deal where it caused so much stir with the public. You know, so that's where I stand on it. I have not at this point, I mean, because I watched the context of it. I have not seen how the other mentors respond to this. Now, when it comes to you want to have cohesion, I do think with CLUEC, I appreciate the risk and the gamble that they took on it. I don't think they needed to do it, being honest. They're very competent. What they showcased there was freaking phenom. And I really think that they would have gotten a really, really, really good result if they played fair. And that's the risk you run when you try to be ballsy and you try to find a loophole and pursue it, and your other competitor doesn't. Then it feels like you're bullying, you know? But if both people do it, oh, it's okay. But if none of them do it, it's okay. But if one doesn't and the one does and the other one doesn't, then it's not okay. So that would just be that. That's just how I feel. It's a mixed bag. That's what you get when you have TV shows like this and you allow those types of rules to take place. That is what you get. It's cases like this, and I'm really hopeful that we learned a lesson in here of to have some better integrity. I think when you go about in these ways, because they probably got chewed out a little bit from, if it's not by those here, by people in the public, like, yo, why did you feel like you had to do that? That's a big thing too. Why did CLUEC feel like they had to do this kind of risk? You know, because yeah, it's nice to be funny, but there's a difference between being funny, but also making it a coherent formation and actually practical that you can put into something. There is a way you can make something very overly simplistic and it still messes up a group just as effectively, and they should have done that. You know what I mean? I really think that would have really helped them if they either made it really simple or really, really hard, and not what they pulled, because no one else had pulled that before, and I think a lot of people didn't know what to do with it, because it's still technically in the rules, or they wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? So that's really all I have to say about it. I think I'm gonna have more to say as I continue to react to the full episode, because I mean, we have a little bit left. But just for the excerpt that's on YouTube, if this makes it onto YouTube, that's my genuine thoughts on it. I mean, so far, I feel that a lot of people are like, La Chica enabled CLUEC. Why didn't they tell him to change the choreography? There's nothing wrong with the choreography. It's a challenge, right? They made the full liberty to want to make that choreography that way, and they didn't just improvise and then tell them to do whatever they wanted. They actually had content, and they made everybody do something individual. They had permission to do that. By Mnet. That's in the rules. Like, you're allowed to do that. Now, is that respectful? No. But you know what else isn't respectful? Giving H basic whole count choreography that takes up probably 3 to 4 8 counts worth when you cater the BPMs to each other. There was significantly more of H's set that was tailored to overly simplistic choreography in comparison to what they had to do. So for me, I have a bigger problem with people not pointing out the faults of all these other crews as to why other crews got eliminated, because their counterparts did something similar to this, but this was the one that everybody got all up in arms about. And that's exactly how I felt whenever people were upset about the plagiarism case with Vata and ATs, but they're not sitting here talking about Just Jerk with that tutting crew out of France and how they pulled something very similar in tutting concepts. For me, I'm somebody who really tries. I totally understand if there's an issue with something, but you gotta find an issue with all of it, not just one part that you just find uncomfortable. It's either all or nothing on these types of things. You know what I mean? So going back to this, essentially, I think I just need to continue to watch it to really see if there's other further emotional problems that take place or like behavior problems that take place. Because when it comes to the actual act of what's happened, Squid chose CLUEC. They could have chosen anybody, but they chose CLUEC. There's also something to be said about that. CLUEC, loose cannon. You have no idea what they're going to do. They knew that, and this is what they got. So they did the best that they could. Will they be rewarded for it? I don't know. You know, I'm about to find out, but that's kind of my thoughts, and I really want to have some discussions on this. I really do, because I think it's going to be important for us to, I really want to understand other perspectives that have been brought to the table about this issue outside of the ones that have been brought to my attention, because I'm only going off of what people have currently told me, not other insights. You know what I mean? So do forgive me for that, because I am a human at the end of the day too, and I can only go off of what I see and what I hear, you know? So that's pretty much it for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more Street Dance Girl Fighter content, whether that's full episode reactions, season 1 or season 2 excerpts, I have that on YouTube, as well as early released on Patreon for you to glean and enjoy. I also have other dance contents, including K-pop, whether it's ATs or XG or just miscellaneous groups that happen. I always early release there. And I also do Street Dance China full episodes, as well as D-League, which is Japan's official professional dance league. So that's all pretty fun and pretty awesome. And I hope there's something here that you're able to find that's enjoyable for you, and I definitely look forward to discussions that may come from this particular episode, because I know there's a couple hot topics that were discussed. And yeah, so once again, I'm Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.